guys, it's Logan,
It's Dion too.
and we're here to show you how to mark up, summarize, and support a claim using a text. The text we're going to be using today is Charles. Charles is by Shirley Jackson, Novels and Stories.
It's Shirley Jackson. Okay, hey, it's Dion here. We're gonna give you some evidence of the claim, that why we think the claim is what it is, and we're gonna give you a brief summarize of the text just so you know what's going on. So the main character in this text is Lori's mom. That's the perspective you take on, and it's the first day of kindergarten for Lori. So he goes off to school and comes back slamming the door, saying, "Isn't anybody here?" But he talks about this interesting character named Charles. Now, he said that the teacher spanked the boy, though, and for being fresh. And his mom said, "What did he do? Who was it?" Lori thought it was Charles. That is a very big hint to what we think the claim is, so we'll get that back in later. Then he also grinned enormously. Today, Charles said to the teacher, this is the second day of kindergarten. Now, he grinned enormously. That is also a very big hint to what's going on about this interesting character named Charles. So, he also says, "Look at my thumb, gee, you're dumb." That is a very rude comment, and he says that to himself, kind of, and starts laughing insanely, which...
Wait, didn't he say that to his father?
It doesn't say it was directed to anybody. He just says it.
Okay.
Okay, so, he also says that Charles was a bad student again because he didn't want to color with crayons. And for the rest of the week, you hear about Charles and how the mother, which is what you're taking on, the character you're taking on, isn't really comfortable with Lori being with Charles. She says that, let's see right here. "Do you think kindergarten is too unsettling for Lori? All this toughness and bad grammar, and this Charles boy sounds like such a bad influence." That's what he's saying, but the father says, "Nah, just keep him in here. Might as well get him to learn these people now." So the next day, Charles yelled, so in school, sent a boy from first grade to the teacher to make Charles be quiet. So Charles had to stay after school, and all the children had to stay and watch him. Well, why would all the children have to stay and watch him? That is going to be evidence for our claim later. And then he says another rude comment, say, "Hey, Pop, you dusty old mop." Or dust mop. Just not very nice. And talks about how there's a PTA meeting, and a baby kept Lori's mom from going, and she seemed kind of upset. But the baby is also what we want to focus on, because that's also going to be a big clue. Then Friday, Charles stayed after school again, and then Charles was an institution to their family, talking about Charles and what he's done. Now this is where it gets interesting. Lori grimly reported at lunch that the teacher gave him an apple because Charles was good, and he reported that grimly, which means he wasn't very satisfied with that, which is very big. He also told a little girl, Charles, not Lori. He also told a little girl to say a bad word. Now, I don't know if he just yelled it out to all the classmates, but what my thinking is that how would Lori know that Charles told this little girl to say it? Which is big to what our final claim is. So yeah. And then Lori's mom finally went to a meeting with all the teachers and parents and stuff like that. He looked for Charles' mom, which she said none of them looked haggard enough. So that happened. And then she talks with the teacher and says, "We had trouble adjusting the first week or so," she said primely. Now, they're talking about Lori right here, which the first week or so, Charles was also not the best student. Okay. So then she continues to say, "But now he's a fine little helper with occasional lapses, of course." Now, the second week of school, he said that the second or third week of school, he said that Charles was good. and was a little helper. Well, doesn't that line up with that claim? And occasional lapses, which would mean that the lapse would be when he told the girl to say that bad word. So, and she also finishes off by saying, Charles. We don't have any Charles in kindergarten. So our final claim is that Lori is Charles, because all these things match up. That lapses, of course, would mean that the telling the girl to say that bad word. The fine little helper, which is on the second and third week of school, after he was adjusted, being bad the first week or having trouble adjusting the first week. And all that evidence and specific quotes I said are highlighted in the text, and later on we will show you how to find this evidence and highlight them and how you're supposed to do that.
Awesome.
That's all for now. See ya.
Alright guys, it's Logan back. And now we're going to look at how we got the evidence from the text to support our claim and our summary. And so, as we start to read, you'll see we have a couple things highlighted here. Lori thought he took a minute to delay, and he constructed the name Charles. Now, our claim is that Lori is Charles. Now this, since it was a delay, gives us a piece of evidence that he may have made up the name Charles. He grinned enormously. It's another key piece that can support. Go through. He's making a rude comment to his adult figure, to an adult figure. He is insisting, and he is describing what Charles did in school every day, making it a sort of everyday thing. Another rude comment. A comment made by the mother, who is the speaker, the narrator in the story. So, on Charles stayed after school again, and so did all the other children. That doesn't make sense. So, we could infer that Lori made that up to explain why he had to stay after school. And the mother, Charles was the institution in our family. He was the hot topic. That is really important. Grimly, another descriptive word. Emotional. Changing Charles was so good today, the teacher gave him an apple. Now let's keep that in mind for later. Told a little girl to say a bad word. And the teacher washed her mouth out with soap, and Charles laughed. That's basically all of that. He said the evil word himself 3 or 4 times. Now, I actually didn't highlight that. So, let's find just a yellow marker over here. And okay, here we go. So he said it himself a couple times, got his mouth washed out with soap. And so his mom's at the PTA meeting, and she's looking for Charles' mother. And she's saying that none of them look haggard enough. And she goes down and she starts to talk to the teacher. And the teacher describes that Lori had a little bit of trouble adjusting the first week or so. His fine little helper. Charles helped earlier in the story. His mother saying he adjusts quickly. Charles, she brings up Charles. Charles, the teacher, is questioning. We don't have any Charles in kindergarten. Now that is the big piece that's going to help support our claim later. Alright, so now you've seen how to summarize and support a claim. You've seen how to mark